Now, I do want to shift because we have to talk about one other thing. We have to talk about being a step parent, a stepfather in particular, in your instance. And I mean, you came into a situation with four very different children than the two you had raised. I mean, I would venture to say my children are a little more free in their negativity and willingness to express their opinions about things. So what was it like? I mean, coming in, I mean, how do you think you have so successfully navigated being a step parent? I mean, we didn't even have Karen's book at that time, the Step Family Handbook. Boy, did I wish we had had that book. But I mean, how do you think you handled it? And why was it as successful as it is? I mean, I point people to our blog post that Ian wrote. I mean, and I still just marvel at, you know, what Ian wrote about you and what he learned from you. And I mean, anybody who knows our family knows that those words from that child in particular are so powerful. I mean, how do you think you did this?
That's an interesting question. I mean, well, one was a number of things, I guess. I think going into that, you have, as an incoming step parent or new to step parent, you can't go in there and just impose your will and your way and think that's appropriate. I always felt like, wait, there's a lot more to the relationship between Elise and all her kids and her ex-husband that I just don't know about. A lot of nuances to all that, and you've got to appreciate that. And so you just can't step into it and go, well, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way I do things. I've always taken that probably as my most fundamental building block of how do we do this together, and not allow, not coming in and saying, trying to change things. Well, I don't think that's appropriate, and I don't think it's not the way I would do it. We didn't have those conversations, or if we did it, we did in private, of course, not around the kids, because that's not fair to them, or not fair to Elise either if I were to do that. So, but I had to appreciate Elise had done a great job with the kids, and obviously her ex-husband, to his degree as well. The kids were brilliantly smart kids, not afraid to speak up, not afraid to challenge things, but they're all really smart kids. And they're all actually pretty effective communicators. Some more direct than others, but I thought that, this is, like I said, really the bottom line is you can't come in and say this is the way it is. Kind of come in and learn, get to know everybody a lot better, understand what makes each person tick. And each person obviously has got a different personality, and trying to really understand all that. So you go, all right, let's figure out how we can make this work. What are their strengths? What are the things that upset them? What are the things they're worried about? And try to address all those in your relationship with each person individually.
Right.
And I think that helped a lot. And, Elise has got 4 kids, a lot of commonalities, but boy, each kid is very unique.
Yeah.
But all brilliant. I mean, we were so lucky. We have 6 kids that are all brilliant kids, and they're all hardworking, and they're all figuring their own way out, and so that helped right along from the very beginning, that we just had 6 very smart kids, hardworking kids, and not afraid to put themselves out there to find their way in life. Right. I also had a lot of power and a belief in Elise. I've always had that since we first met. Now it's I go back to 1999. Yeah, 1999 is when we first met, and always knew that Elise was pretty extraordinary as a parent, in how she was raising her kids, and homeschooling 4 kids obviously was a big challenge, but also built a very strong relationship between her and her kids, and I would never ever want to come between that either. I mean, there is a bond there that's unbelievable, and that, and to this day is still extraordinarily strong. And so I also knew that I would have to figure out how to navigate into that without trying to come in, giving anybody the impression I was trying to split it apart. Because as a step parent, that could certainly be pursued, understood that way. And I'm sure the kids probably thought that, going, who is this guy coming into our dynamic? And is he going to screw everything up? And so that was another really important piece of it. It's like, go in and understand the dynamic and figure out how you can complement that, supplement that. Don't come in to be a person who's going to break it up. Right. That would be the worst thing of all. And so I think those are some of the things that just kind of like helped guide me as a figure out how to navigate this. I certainly had no how to do this list or book at the time. And
no, we definitely did not have a checklist on this.
yeah,
I mean, one thing that I do think, and it goes really in line with what you're saying, I think one of the things that allowed us to be successful was we kind of committed that we were not going to, put some kind of idyllic view of a step family. I mean, we joke we're kind of like the Brady Bunch in that we have 3 girls and 3 boys. But that being said, we didn't have Alice. And so, that was already a downfall. But we didn't force things. Like there were times that we would say, oh, it's so-and-so, we're celebrating this, or it might have even been a birthday, something important. But I mean, we were not like, ye shall all be there, put on your fancy clothes, show up at the restaurant with a smile on at 6:30. I mean, we were much more laid back about it, and obviously our children were older, like the youngest was 8, and then they went up from there. But we were able, I think, to navigate some of that expectation. Because I work with a lot of people who they really expect to create this second family that's just perfect. And that's going to be all cutesy tootsy and adorable with no bumps. And I'm like, let's be serious. That's just not real. And so I think that the fact that we did not force that, and we have navigated, I mean, we've had graduations with all 6 kids. We've had graduations with 3 kids. We've had, people fly to see a kid play football. We've had it all. Like we've had a mix of things, and we just roll with it every time. Like, at least I feel like that's something that we both do. I mean, we never look at whoever's at that table celebrating whatever and feel any kind of way negative about anybody not there. Like that's just not a thing for us.
Yeah, I would agree. We offer opportunities,
right?
But we don't force things down people's throats and and make them have to do this because this is the way it should be.
Right.
And recognizing each kid, is probably a different approach to this, different thought process to it, different concerns about this mixed family together, and then our relationship as well as a relationship. Their stepsisters and stepbrothers. So I think all the kids have done a great job with it. I mean, it's not easy for them. I mean, let's face it, going divorce and then going to step families is not easy on kids.
No.
And we as parents, I think our job is to appreciate how hard it is on them.
Right.
And do what we can to make them feel most comfortable in it and feel that they're supported, loved, cared for, understood, respected, all those things.
Right.
So that they can feel comfortable in their own, in this, whatever this new environment is they're going into.
Right.
And let it just evolve, actually. Don't try to force feed or force make it just come into us, as you put it, idyllic situation in your mind. That's not the idyllic situation in the kids' minds, most likely.
Exactly. Nobody really signed up for the Brady Bunch. But
I
mean, they all would have voted for Alice for sure.
Yeah.
But,
the cool thing is some of our kids have developed some pretty cool relationships in different stages along the way, but they got to do it on their own, and it wasn't force fed on them.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. I mean, one thing I think about too that I think has probably been really helpful is, the amount of respect that you show my kid's dad and the amount of respect that I show your daughter's mom. I think that has been, we have been pretty consistent in that. Like, I know, one thing that's a big deal, like in our family law world, is holidays. And, how are you going to deal with that?
Right.
And Doug and I have been exactly the opposite of practically all of my clients. Like, we're like, whatever y'all want to do, we'll figure it out. We talk and we figure out what, Pam needs, we figure out what David needs, and we're like, we'll work around you all. So like if somebody really wants Christmas or they want Thanksgiving, I'm like, okay, we'll do it a different day. Like no big deal whatsoever. I'm not having a fight over when a turkey is being fried.
A day in a calendar is not defining your life.
Yeah. And I think that has been really helpful to our children because they have never, ever, ever had to feel any kind of way except, cool, I'm going to get 2 turkeys. Maybe it'll be on 2 different days. Maybe I'm eating turkey twice on the same day, whatever. They know that there's going to be no upset about any of it. And I think that's been really helpful to the kids.
Yeah, it's actually helped them because it builds a transition for later on when they have significant others, and then they don't, they know in my family, there won't be pressure that I've got to be there on
Right.
a holiday. I think this all adds to that continuum.
Right. Yeah, I hope so, because I don't want to get in battles over that at all. I mean, life's too short to figure
Right.
out when you're frying a turkey, and I'm game to fry turkey any day of the year. Of course, I
Absolutely.
don't actually do the frying. Doug does. Let's be honest. I would burn myself, but I can make the chocolate pecan pies. And
Yes.
yeah. Well, I really, really appreciate you coming on my Facebook Live and just talking to us about these things, because I think they're both really important topics. And I just really appreciate it. And yes, it is great that everyone gets to meet my Doug, because so many people who know me, I mean, they've heard so much about Doug. I couldn't have done a quarter of what I've done in the last 10 years without his support. I mean, actual support, like, stepping in and doing all the things. I mean, Doug, one thing I was remembering is, I mean, talk about a stepdad moment. I mean, I have a son, Eric, who, had a car accident, all kinds of things. And he was needing to look at boarding school. I mean, you would think that would have been something I would have gone to. I mean, under normal circumstances, I think it would have been. And he literally was like, no, I think Doug should go. It's kind of a guy thing. Okay, fair enough. And so there Doug went, across the country with Eric to find his next school home when he was in high school. I mean, and that was a huge deal. And it's things like that. That's another example, I think, of, you stepping in, doing, I mean, at that point, I mean, that is what he needed. And then I being willing to just completely step back and not take any kind of offense to it. And I thought, well, this is probably smart. I need to pay that tuition, so I better be working, not, visiting the school. And it worked out great. And, but I mean, that was such an interesting, time watching, one of those kids really look to you and really needed that kind of support and needed me to just back down. And
Yeah,
so
it was a cool opportunity to spend time with them.
yeah, that it was awesome. And I appreciate it still to this day. It was a big time for him. Well, I appreciate it. And I know that you have work to do and I have work to do, and I love you. And I will see you in a few minutes.
I love you too, Stuart. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks for coming on. Okay, now I'm gonna